All right, here we are, another episode of Flipping Houses for Rookies. Hey, Peter.
Good morning, Bill.
I hear you got the dog in the background, so if we got a little chatter going on there, that means the dog's enjoying the podcast as well.
Yeah, I got the curtains closed. I got the music going, but I have the tile man walking in and out every time he cuts a piece of marble. He goes, "Who's this guy? It's the marble guy. Stop. It's the tile guy. It's the same guy 2 minutes ago. Stop. Shut up."
All right, so we're on episode number 274. The name of today's episode is seven key ingredients to keep you from losing money in a down economy. Here's a description. So many talk about how easy it is to buy houses without capital or risk, including me. But few talk about what you should do if the economy takes a turn for the worse. And a lot of people worry about that.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Especially when it threatens not only the money, but your freedom too. I know I have spouted in the past, fortunes are created from chaos, and I still subscribe to that. When everyone is running and hiding, I tend to do more business. Why and how is what this isolated podcast is all about. And if I can do it, so can you. One of the takeaways you should get by listening today is there is no bad time to get into real estate. You just need to know your market and the correct strategies to apply in that environment so you are protected and winning. Once you have this clear picture, the threat comfortably turns to joy and excitement, then into a fortune. But the correct mindset is key to these rough times. So let's go work on that today.
Sounds good.
Interesting, huh?
Oh, yeah. No, people worry about, gee, real estate, isn't that dangerous or is it risky? But there's details, what kind of market is it? Up market, down market, sellers, buyers, and the different strategies. You have to match it up like you're saying.
Exactly.
Yeah.
All right, so before we get started, just a little bit of a housework here. So first of all, there is a link in the description wherever you're listening or watching to this podcast. It's actually something new that I've done. I've created a 3-part series called the Masterclass, and it talks about exactly what we're going to talk about in this podcast. So the link is in that description. You can just go click on it. It's the 3-part masterclass is free. You will need to register, and you'll get emails. You get 3 emails with the actual recordings. They're about 30 to 40 minutes long. Also, if you're listening to us on a podcast platform or on YouTube or Facebook, please subscribe to our channel. Also, give us a review if you could, or go to flippinghousesforrookies.com. And hit the testimonial on the top right-hand side. I'm trying to get over 100, and I'm damn close to it on that page. So you can leave a video, you can leave an audio, you can leave something in writing about our podcast or any of my materials. Lastly, Peter's back. Yay! So we've been recording again on 9:30 Eastern Standard Time, Thursday mornings on what I call my slang in my emails is to Facebook.
Oh, that's a new one. Oh, that's a good one. Oh, God.
To Facebook, after being in the news so much, Mr. Zuckerberg has got his hand in the till. Him and Mr. Soros or whatever his name is,
Soros? Yeah,
Soros. Each put in $500 million to get Mr. Biden in office. So there you go.
My kid was telling me yesterday, we had a nice conversation. He watches all the stuff and he looks up all the stuff, and oh my God, there used to be laws where a corporation could not donate at all, period. Yeah. Then you can only do so much to this person, and then they got around all that so you can pile money in and just get your guy in. It's just so crooked.
And then the old whistleblower on Facebook, the whistleblower was actually, as they call it, a Trojan horse for changing some laws for Facebook. So it's a total mess. So that's why I call it two-faced Facebook. And then ZooTube. I call it ZooTube because it's a zoo. You go on there and it's just a zoo. Anyways, if you go onto Facebook or YouTube, just type in "Flipping Houses for Rookies," and when we're actually broadcasting live like we are right now, you can actually ask questions by typing in the comments or in the Facebook comments section. All right, enough of that. So I want to start today's podcast off on a bit of a rant.
We go, folks.
It won't be very long, but I have a little bit of a rant I want to get off my chest.
Can I take my earbuds out?
Sure, but I got to get it off my chest anyways. You'll probably hear me even with your earbuds off.
From Wallingford, 15 miles away. All right, go ahead. Get it over with.
It drives me crazy. So many people, Peter, believe that banks are the only place to get money. And it drives me nuts that the banks actually promote this and have so many people believe that that's correct. And it's just not true. So if you eliminate that false data or false information or fake information from your mindset, you'll be on your way to freedom. So that's what I'm going to say about that. And even worse than that, what I can't stand, and it's so pathetic, because when I turn on the TV and I watch it, I want to vomit. Today's media runs the world. And it's from evil people who are trying to run their personal, private agendas and have enough money to control the news companies and the media. And they promote what they want you to hear, not what's really going on. And it's really hard and getting even harder today to get to the truth. You know, freedom of the press, when I was a boy, some years ago, and when you were a kid, they actually had something to report on. Now, I'm going to talk about when they reported it, what they did to it, but more importantly, there was actually something behind it. Nowadays, they just blatantly lie and make shit up. There's not even like an ounce of truth behind it. They're just trying to push an agenda. And that just irks the shit out of me. I mean, think about it. If the news doesn't have in any article or any newscast, if it doesn't have harm, like damage or violence or death or scandal, it doesn't show up. It's not there. You don't hear about it, right? Plus, it has to have these components to be able to make the headlines. It has to have sex, money, big names, so they can invalidate those big names and make them wrong, bring them down to their level.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it doesn't hit the press. It doesn't hit the news. I mean, you do something good and they don't promote that. Right?
No, they wait till, every celebrity knows it. Bands have that happen. They become popular, then even the fans turn on them. And, they have to find something to pick on and make a story out of it when there's nothing there. They're just doing their thing. Very few people escape that. A few do, but very few.
And here's the thing, Peter. I've actually studied this through Ben Settle, because he has a whole book called, I forgot the name of it, The Trolls or something like that. People that have attacked him because of his.
Even him?
Yeah, they've attacked him. Well, he's an email. He's gotten around. He's in a lot of circles. So between what he talks about and other books that he's read, I've actually done a little bit of research. Not a lot, but enough to understand this. There's a main rule when it comes to what is the word I want? Fame or getting seen on TV or anything.
Getting attention.
There you go. That's perfect.
Getting attention. There's
a main rule. And this rule is generate controversy or drama, which, by the way, my definition of drama, I go over this with my wife sometimes weekly. The definition of drama is heightened emotions. So drama is an elevated emotion. So like you're mad, but you elevate it to make it sound like you're really mad. That's drama.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
It's embellishing the emotions.
And it really forces you to pay attention, because if
Right.
you don't, you're in trouble.
Right.
Right?
Right.
It's heightened to the point. Here's my addition. Heightened to the point that it sucks you in because you think you got trouble now.
Well, it sucks in other people around you so that they pay attention. So that's how they get attention. Kids do this all the time. They generate drama. Generate drama so that they can get your attention. Right.
Yeah,
so
lovely.
So you generate controversy. Controversy breeds drama, and drama breeds engagement.
Yeah.
I mean, think of the TV show The Bachelor. If they didn't have drama, they wouldn't have engagement. Look at the what is that other show? Idol, American Idol. Yeah, right. If it didn't have controversy, if it didn't have drama, it wouldn't have engagement.
Yeah, you want to know the one that drives me crazy? Cooking shows.
Yeah.
They have cooking shows now. They make drama out of it with like dramatic music and who's going to win, who's going to lose. Oh my God. It's just a cooking show. Where's Julia Child or Graham Kerr? Here's how you make the dish, eat it and shut up and have fun. They make drama out of cooking. Come on, folks.
Exactly.
God, it's cooking.
So I told this to my mother. My mother was telling me about something because my mother, doesn't leave a 12 by 12 living room other than to go to bed at night. But miraculously, she knows about everything going on in the world. So I said to her one day, I said, Mom, I don't want to hear your stories. Stop talking. She's like, what do you mean? She was offended. I'm like, Ma, you get your information from television. So think of this. How is television devised? What makes television? Actresses and actors. There's a prompt in front of them. There are pre-written words that they are reading and putting the right body motions and the right emotions to it so that they are believable. That includes the news.
Yeah.
They are actors.
Bill, there's a Facebook post that goes around. They show one news anchor giving the news. Then they show two giving the same news. Then they show 4, 16, 32. They go up to, the whole screen is filled with guys all over the country, men and women, giving the news from different stations, saying the exact same thing. As if they can't, hey, we figured this out. It's the same thing.
So these people that are printing the words are trying to create the narrative, the story. They're trying to author the future, right? Based on their evil, crooked, demented ideas. Like, for example, there's too much population on Earth and we don't have enough resources to handle all the humans, so we better kill off some people, Thus, something like COVID. I'm not saying that's true, but you know what I mean? So you get the connection. That's how these people think. And there's not many of them. It's less than money. It's about 2 or 3% of the population, right?
Yeah, but they're nuts. Right. And they grab money, they grab control, and we want to go home and have a nice life, and they want to be crazy people. By the way, that thing of overpopulation has been around since the Roman Empire.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, right?
It's not real.
So this means that we have in our society a thing called merchants of chaos. Okay. Now, you might be wondering why I'm on this rant in this podcast. And here's why. Because real estate is very similar to the stock market. The merchants of chaos run their fake news and their crazy ideas, and most folks don't bother to qualify if the information they're giving us is true. Mm-hmm. Then they believe it, and then they say it, and they spread the word.
Do you think they make it true because they keep saying it and it becomes real for people?
Yes.
And then the prophecy comes true?
And markets go up and down because of this.
Oh, boy. They make it happen.
So that's right. So what I want to cover, because they're on because they own all the shows. I mean, they own, all the TV shows, CBS, CNN, I don't know, the Fox, all of those, they run the narratives on these, right? And Fox is the best because they're controversy. They're against all the other stations, So Fox gets the most because they're the most, they run controversy and drama. Like, then Democrats, and then CBS is then Republicans, and it's just too obvious. You wouldn't notice this until thank God for and I'm not saying I'm pro or not, but thanks God for President Trump, because at least he brought this to light to all of us so we could see it with his crazy controversy and his drama. You know what I mean?
Yeah, they used to pretend that everything is nice and we're going to have a talk and all that. Then they start, at least they're screaming and yelling, so we see what they really think in their head, so we know what we're dealing with, and maybe we can sort it out somehow.
Right. So what I want to cover today is, when this happens, what do you do? Or more important, what can you do now to keep the dips from not dipping so low or so much and threaten your portfolio and your lifestyle? So let's go over my list of 7 ingredients to keep you from losing money in a down economy, or the perception of a down economy.
Yeah.
Right? So here we go. Number 1, leverage, or not being over leveraged. I learned this valuable lesson in 2008 crash. I was over leveraged. It took me a long time and a few $100,000 to learn this simple rule. And it's going to sound stupid, and you're going to be like, why didn't you think of that earlier? But honestly, it took me about 5 years after 2008 to dig out of my hole from that crash, because it was like, I think almost $300,000 that I lost. Here's the rule. Cash flow is king. Cash flow is king. Prior to 2008 crash, I actually believed my worth was measured by the net equity value. Well, look, I got a 7-figure worth. I'm worth $1 million or $1.5 million in net equity. Right? In other words, the value of the house minus what I owed. What I wasn't thinking with was the values change in different markets. So where I had $1 million, we'll say, in net equity, when the market changed, that $1 million was no longer $1 million. And it was useless to me when I was trying to pay my mortgages. And people started to vacate houses and started doing odd things. The equity didn't mean anything to me. And banks weren't loaning, so I couldn't refinance. It was a nightmare. But if you pay attention to cash flow, it doesn't matter. Rent amounts are much more stable than house values.
That makes sense.
Right? And most markets only swing about 20% up or down. Okay? Now, there are some that have gone higher and lower, like Florida did it and Vegas did it, but they're not common markets. But most markets either rise or lower 20%. Okay? So if you're buying property at 80% loan to value, the most that can happen to you is it's worth what you owe.
Yeah, it evens out.
Right. So just don't sell then. So if it goes down to what you owe, just don't sell then. Keep collecting your rents and let the market come back. That's why cash flow is so important, because cash flow will take you through the dipped markets.
Right.
Right. Grant Cardone said on a Bigger Pockets podcast, I'll never forget it. It stuck with me, and I've told you this many times before, probably. He said the recession-proof real estate property. How do you buy recession-proof real estate property? He says if you keep your rents between $800 and $1,200, everybody can pay that, even when they're broke.
Yeah,
they got to live somewhere. So a recession-proof property. Now he buys a lot of apartment buildings, so that makes sense. Right. So the same thing goes for houses in your area. Like if a $200,000 house, the average mortgage is $1,300 or $1,400, then just make sure you're not paying more than $1,300 or $1,400. Now you can charge $1,800, but if things get bad, you can always charge $1,400 to make $100 a month, and at least pay your mortgage and get through the bad times. Right. So just know those thoughts, and you will be way ahead when you're doing your deals. Does that make sense? So you're not over leveraging yourself. Make sense? Number 2, no emerging market analysis. Okay. This was another huge lesson for me, which I learned with you because of you, Peter, because we went and did some training that you wanted to do, and you kind of talked me into it, and I talked you into it. We spent tens of thousands of dollars, and one of the most valuable lessons I got from it was the emerging market science.
Mm-hmm.
Right? This is another huge lesson for me. Your farm market goes through cycles. Nothing ever stays the same. It's either growing or shrinking, right?
Yeah.
Knowing where your farm market is at is vital to losing money or riding the wave and making a shit ton of money. Okay? Does that make sense? You're like...
Well, I'm wondering if somebody hasn't followed too many of our podcasts, you might need to know that a farm market is just the area that you've chosen to do business in, because houses seem to be selling there, properties seem to be moving. So you pick an area, then it can be property values can be going up or down. Things can be improving. People can be coming into the area, growing, or the thing can be shrinking. And you kind of need to know which way it's going. Because a lot of times people go, oh, hey, it's really good over there. We should buy over there. And that's because that's old news by the time you hear about it. By the time you get into it, it might be too late.
Just like the stock tip. If you hear about a stock tip, it's too late. The guys that know about stocks have already made all their money.
Yeah. You see a wave, you try to, it's like surfing. Hey, look, there's a wave. You go out, you go out. Oh, where'd the wave go? By the time you get there, it's gone. You got to get out there beforehand. You got to wait for it, and you got to be ahead of the wave. It's just like surfing. Duh.
Exactly right.
I just came up with that, by the way. That's pretty good, huh? Surfing. Waves.
That's why I was talking about earlier. So here's the point. Farm market. Let me clarify that for them, because I didn't get that I was using a misunderstood. A farm market, think of a farmer that has a field, right?
Yeah.
And he's going to plant his seeds in the field, and he's going to grow his corn, and he's going to make money, or whatever he's going to grow, string beans, apples, whatever.
Yeah.
There's parameters to his land, right? There's boundaries.
Mm-hmm.
So his money is made within those boundaries by cultivating and planting seeds and taking care of that piece of land and what he's growing. That's a farm market for you. You have a boundary, boundaries of where you're going to do business, and you're going to cultivate and take care of that market within those boundaries. And one of the best strategies in the world is a Dan Kennedy saying is, be a big fish in a small pond.
Yeah.
Which we did a lot of when I was doing marketing in my backyard. We did a lot of it because I would have multiple points of marketing. So we would send flyers in the newspaper, oversized flyers so they couldn't be missed. We would put signs up in those neighborhoods. We would put business cards on gas pumps. We would, because this is all before technology, right? We would put ads in the newspaper in that area, and we would and then have business cards. And so when we went into a house and gave somebody a business card, everything looked the same. And they would always say, which you've been with me, they would always say, oh, you're everywhere. I've seen you everywhere.
Yep.
And truth is, you put signs on the right corners, their drive path, and we're in the newspaper, and you sent them yellow letters, and you had ads in the newspaper, and you were at the gas pump. So everywhere they went, you were at the grocery store, on the bulletin board in the grocery store, their main route where they would get their groceries, their gas, you were there. So you're right. You weren't everywhere. You were just everywhere where they went. And you were, and we were well known. And that's how that was my farm market. I cultivated my farm market, and I got lots of deals because of it. It's different now because people, especially with COVID, people don't travel as much as they used to. So now we attempt to do that on the internet, right? So my point is that knowing what cycle your market's in, just like your analogy, are you ahead of the wave or are you behind the wave? Are you able to make money? Which, by the way, one of the things that irritates me a lot is people that are in the market that think they're investors, and it's really the appreciation that's making them successful. They buy a $200,000 house. Next month it's worth 220, and a year later it's worth 300, and they're bragging about how they're such a good real estate investor.
Yeah, they got lucky.
When all they did is they had the balls enough to buy it at 200,000, right? So what happens in down markets? And that's what we're talking about now, right? Yeah. So what do then? Those type of people run and hide and put their head in the sand. Mm-hmm. That's what normally happens. So having the science of an emerging market is important. Now, if you go into the description of this podcast, there's a link there, and the first masterclass I do shows you the science and how to find and use or get into or get out of an emerging market. It's a 40-minute video, and I explain the whole emerging market. There are books written on it. I mean, Dave Lindahl's book, which is where I learned it from, emerging markets. That's where I learned it from you. We went to some of his training, yeah. And I want to give him credit for it. But I will tell you that you could go read his book. You can go study it. That 40-minute video hits everything you need to know. We could elaborate and make it more fancier and make it longer and more important if you want. But the 40 minutes that I do is, I show you screen shares. I show you what websites to go to. I show you how we do it. And it's not very hard if you know where to go and what to look for. There's 2 or 3 components that you look for, and you either, like you said before, either the city's growing or it's shrinking. And what are the indicators? How do you know the city's growing or shrinking? Mm-hmm. And I show it to you in that video. So if you go into the link or just go to flippinghousesforrookies.com/masterclass, you can get the videos. There's 3 videos, and I'm going to explain what the other ones are as we go. Okay, so we find an emerging market. It's not in our backyard. In other words, we can't drive to it. Mm-hmm. It's not local to us. It's 1,400 miles away. Mm. What do? Which brings me to number 3. Okay. Number 3 is being set up to do virtual deals, which simply means not only doing deals in your backyard, like I just said, being able to drive to them, that's a backyard deal, but anywhere in the country. Done this way, you study number 2, which is emerging markets. And the emerging markets, you go where they are. Right now, what you're doing when you're doing it in your backyard, and this took me 20 years to learn this. It's so stupid that I didn't know, but you couldn't do farm markets 1,400 miles away 5 years ago. Mm-hmm. COVID helped that a lot. As far as I'm concerned, COVID advanced technology, internet technology by 5 or 8 years.
It forced us to.
Yeah.
For survival. It's a challenge that we had to meet.
Exactly. So people are willing to go onto Zoom, and they're willing to, do all that kind of stuff nowadays. Right?
Bill, not only did I figure out how to do music lessons online, I had a physical therapy session yesterday online from California.
Yeah. Yeah.
Unbelievable. Raise your hand like that. Go like this.
Yeah.
3,000 miles away.
There you go. And that's how the world is. So doing real estate deals virtually has come into the market. I couldn't do this 5 years ago, right? But here's the point. I would struggle certain years because the market was declining.
Yeah.
So instead of going out finding new sellers and finding new transactions and having my attention on that, I had my attention sucked into my business on all the management stuff, like who's not paying rent and who moved out and saving expense cost on broken things. Should we do it? Shouldn't we do it? Because we didn't have any money.
Yeah.
Right? So the cycle would be down. No longer is it that way. Right? So what you want to do is start doing business in other cities as if you were right across the street from the house you're buying. And nowadays, I figured that out because of COVID and because all this craziness was going on. Like I was losing coaching clients, and I wasn't making deals because people were kind of like, why would I do that when I could put it on the market and get 20,000 over my asking price and have a bidding war? right? I went through all that like everybody else. But the difference is it forced me to do things I normally wouldn't have done. And now on the other side of it, have realized it's a new way to do business, is this virtual aspect. So because of that, the second video in my masterclass, which is the link in this video, in this chat, the second video of this masterclass is all about virtual deals. Now, here's the thing, Peter. Here's something that I noticed from doing these deals, because what forced me the most to do these deals is I actually had a coaching group of people from Israel and Australia that are doing business in the United States. So these guys, I had to learn, I had to elevate my ability to help these guys buy properties from the other side of the planet.
He's talking about remote,
right?
It's not even another state; it's another country with, like, different language, perhaps different laws, and they have to do it with these laws in mind and all that stuff. And
they got to set up corporations. Yes, set up corporations in the countries and become, they're not citizens. A whole bunch of stuff, right? So my belief, and you know this because you've been around me for 20-something years, if I have, and I learned this from Kiyosaki's book, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, 20 years ago, or whenever he came out with the book, right? Because I bought it immediately as soon as he came out with it. What I learned is if I have money problems and I'm having trouble with money, first thing is don't put my attention on, I don't have any money, because then I'll just get more of that. I put attention on, how do I make money?
Yeah.
So be careful what you're thinking about, because you get what you're thinking about. So if you're constantly thinking about, I need more money, you're going to get less money. Number one. Number two, what Kiyosaki taught me was, in his book, was if you got money problems like that, the best thing you could do is go find somebody else and help them with their money problems.
He said that?
Yeah.
And I've heard you say that, but you got it from him, huh?
Yeah, it's in the Rich Dad, Poor Dad book.
I got to say something. Just let me throw this in before I forget. People think, money people, rich people, they're horrible people. Maybe, a lot of them are, obviously, because there's a lot of poor jerks, and rich doesn't matter.
No. Let's isolate that. You're talking about often elitist.
Mm-hmm.
They're usually the snotty ones that have hand-me-downs. But if you look at the person that made the money, the grandfather, the father that made the money, they're not like that. Just the descendants are like that.
That's right. That's my
siblings.
And this guy started from nothing. His dad was poor, and he learned from his friends that. But that's my point, is that they're willing to be helpful. So you got to make that distinction. Is this a good guy or a bad guy? Just because he has money, he's got money, must be bad. No.
So if you go,
the good guys always share and do things like that. Go help somebody else. You came to my house years ago before we started real estate just to help me with my little business for free. I said, you need some money? He's like, no, just helping you. Like, really? Thanks, Bill. You spent an hour or two with me for nothing.
Well, no, not for nothing, because it worked. You did some stuff and got out of trouble.
I did. And then I came back and we helped each other more.
Yep.
If you just keep helping, it's going to work somehow.
So what you're talking about, we covered in podcast number 272, the 6 core achievements and influential roles in creative real estate to be.
Right.
And remember, step 5 and step 6 is helping others. It's just a natural progression. It happens to everybody that's successful. Or the social ones, not the antisocial ones.
Yeah.
The social personalities, not the antisocial.
That's right.
Okay. But in any event, this is what happened to me, is I decided I needed to learn virtual. So what better way to do it is to actually, what is the word that I use? I can't think of it right now. Learn while I teach.
Oh.
Learn out loud. Learn out
there
loud.
You go. Okay.
Learn out loud. That's what I call it. Learn out loud.
I'm still getting used to that one, but that's good. Learn out loud.
And that means that I put myself in a position where I had to do it because I had to help the others. I pressured myself because I needed to help them do it. So I needed to go figure stuff out. So between that and my own business and my regular coaching group, it forced me to have to figure this out.
Yeah.
And I'm glad now that I went through that agony, because it was agony for months and months and months. And sometimes I'd lay down at night and I would just ponder, like, what the hell am I going to do? Because it was rough, right?
Yeah.
But it's changed, and now on the other end of that, having gone through that experience, I can now share it with others. And again, these videos, this masterclass, these 3 videos are exactly that. It's not, I don't have to go on and write books about it, and just these 3 videos are enough. And the value you get from these videos are amazing. Okay. All right. So let's get back to the podcast. So doing virtual deals or being set up to do virtual deals and hitting emerging markets is the wave of the future. Okay. That brings me to number 4, automation and systemization. Here's some stats. 36% or more lately of my deals come from follow-up. Rents get collected electronically now. Zoom, like we talked about before, since COVID, is like bottled water now. Everybody does it.
Yeah, it's not weird.
If you have systems and automation, you cannot be mired down with managing, marketing, and existing tenants. Right? So the system we use, we upload a list and it automatically texts the people we want it to text. All we pay attention to is, so one person does that, the rest of the team does the rest. So basically, here's what happens is, and I do this in my new coaching group. It's not coaching anymore. It's called an apprenticeship program. I've changed it because we're actually together as a group, collectively doing a deal in this system. Right? You know, because you're doing it, right?
Yeah, it's so good. I mean, I always was working on Monday nights and couldn't join the coaching. I'd listen to them later during the week often. But with this system, I said, no, screw it. I'm doing this. I'm not doing any other work. Because we're actually doing it and learning how to do it, not talk about doing it. Otherwise, you tell people like, hey, why don't you go home and do this? And they don't do it. Right. So now they're just doing it during the coaching call a little bit. And then during the week, because you got to talk. It's like, it's like lessons. It's like when I give music lessons, you got to come next week and show me what you did. And if you didn't, you're a dummy. Yeah. You're a dummy. You'll feel like a dummy. Oh, if I didn't do it. A kid yesterday, oh, I didn't do this. I didn't play the song. Like, yeah, you dummy. Come on, do the song. I'm going to tell your mother she's paying for this. But, you're paying for coaching. You're doing this stuff. And, why talk about it when you can actually do it? But it's also less scary because you don't have to do the whole thing by yourself. You just get, It's like you're part of a business where you do one thing. Right. And then you learn the other job. So
it's like being in the grocery store. You're the cashier, right? You don't have to worry about ordering the groceries. You don't have to worry about stocking the shelves. You don't have to worry about the money to pay for everything. You don't have to worry about accounting. You don't have to worry about any of that stuff. You just worry about running the cash register.
Yeah, you're not the manager with all the problems.
Yeah, right.
Your job.
So my other partner, Sean, helps us with the technical stuff because he's 26 years old and he's like a rocket scientist. He's really smart. And he helps. So he and I set everything up. So the whole platform is set up. And on Monday nights, we go in there and we work on deals. And every week when we leave the call, what happens is somebody gets assigned to be the texter. So they respond to all the texts and use all our scripts and everything that are in there. So when people are responding to the text, they answer them with our scripts. Mm-hmm. And I have a complete job description. And I call it a hat write-up. It's slang because, like, if you're a policeman, you wear one hat. If you're a fireman, you wear another hat. If you're a railroad engineer, you wear another hat. And the point of the slang term is when I'm wearing a policeman hat, I'm doing policeman things. When I'm wearing a fireman hat, I'm doing fireman things. So when you're wearing the texter hat, you're doing texting things, nothing else. Mm-hmm. So it's your turn to text. So I have a write-up that we do that you get, and it explains how to do the texting. Then the other thing is we do, and we're way off topic now, but we do opening calls. So I have a whole hat write-up or a whole job description and scripts of how to do opening calls. And then the same thing for closing calls. So the only thing you do in the coaching group is you do one of the 3 things. You're either a texter, you're an opening caller, or you're a closing caller. And every week it changes. And you do that job until you're comfortable with it. And the best part is, I don't care if we ever get a deal. I mean, if we get a deal, hooray. I mean, we got one last week, or we're very close to getting one. I mean, 1 week in, and we got a deal already. And we got 3 more to work on, which I haven't had a chance to work on them, but we got 3 more to work on from texting 100 names a day.
Mm-hmm.
And you guys, the coaching clients, are doing the work, not me. And it gives you practice. But if you mess something up and you lose a deal, it's like, okay, no big deal. So we lose a deal. It's not my main money line. It's not a profit center for any of us. I mean, the deals will come to me and I'll close them deals, and probably Sean and I will do them because he put a lot of work into it, or you, or whatever we do, right? So the point is not closing. I mean, the point is to close the deal so we can learn how to do it. But we'll make money. I'll make money doing it, but I'm not in it for that. I'm in it to teach other people. And you even made a comment to me the other day, like, I thought you'd be excited about this house we're buying, and you're not. You're more excited about showing everybody else how to do it than actually buying the house.
Yeah, we didn't talk about it at all. You didn't ask anything about it. Just, hey, Pete, here's my script. Bill, we got a house to buy. Hey, Pete, look at the script I got. Bill, we have a house to buy. Should we call the house? Hey, Pete, look at this other script I'm doing. Then I'm going to do this and blah, 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 blah. You have more fun out of like helping people and learning how to teach it, because you've gotten, to the point of it's not a big thrill to you because you've done it so much. Like, another concert. Okay, fine. The
point is it's systemized. We already have it systemized, and you don't need to be in my apprenticeship program to do that. You can go to REI Reply. I'm not an affiliate for them. They don't even know that I'm promoting them. They have no idea how many people I signed up for them. They're clueless about what I'm doing because it's $50 a month and it does everything. Now, we've altered our system to do creative real estate because they're wholesalers. So we've altered the system to do creative real estate, and all the campaigns and all the stuff in the background. We actually have a whole course on how to do that. So if you want to buy REI Reply, you don't want to be a coaching client or be in the apprenticeship group, that's totally fine. We have a course, I don't even know how much it is, and it teaches you it takes you in the weeds and teaches you how to set everything up. I have all that. Just send me a support ticket. That's
funny. I never saw the original REI. I just saw the one you made with Sean, and they really set up for just wholesaling.
Yeah, they're wholesalers. Yeah, they're wholesalers.
What a bad idea. I'm sorry.
Yeah, well, anyways. So we're to number 5 now. So that's systems and systemizations, okay? Mm-hmm. So that's why it's so important, because it does 90% of the work for you. Mm. So all you need to do once you get it set up, or you get into my program and we show you how to do it, all you need to worry about is the texting, the opening call, and the closing call. And we use virtual assistants for the first 2, texting and opening calls. So the only thing I do is I do the closing calls. And it eliminates a lot of the bullshit in the business, which is the reason why I spout very often. You could do this part-time with a full-time income, because that's what I do. Because I still run my management company, and I still run my online business, and I buy new houses. So I've actually got 9 sources of income. I counted it, 9 sources of income that take my attention throughout the week. So I can't be doing this full time. Mm. Okay.
Yep.
Brings us to number 5. Number 5 is not use money with creative deals. Mm. There are 270 podcasts about this, 270 something podcasts about this, how not to use money to do creative real estate deals, right here at Flipping Houses for Rookies. What you need to know out of all these podcasts, here are some important rules. There's 2 of them I want you to know today. One is real estate is made to take money out of it, not put money into it. And when you make that adjustment in your head, even a homeowner buying a house doesn't put a lot of money into it. The bank does. That's the purpose of banks. Yep. With investors, it's hard money lenders or private money lenders. With us creative real estate people, the people that put money into the house are the sellers and the buyers, not us.
Yep.
Okay? So if you know how to do it, after a while, putting money into a deal looks down outright just plain stupid. Okay, that's when I talk about people that have money leap before they learn, because they don't know that they can do this. They don't know that they don't have money. Some of the worst coaching clients I've had are people that haven't had a lot of money, and they just write checks. I had a girl one time in the beginning that was a retired commercial mortgage agent. She was a multimillionaire.
Yeah.
doing properties in like the most expensive part in Fairfield County, Connecticut, which is the third largest economic county in the country. And she would just always go, well, I'm just going to write a check for it. And that was her solution. And I had trouble coaching her because she had money and she would just fix her problems with checks. The second rule, if you don't put any money into the deals, you can't lose any money. So that's important for our listeners, because if you're worried about risk or losing your life savings or buying a property, if you don't commit to the deal, like if you don't put a deed in your name and you don't put money into the deal, what are you worried about? When you do rent to owns and you do owner finance, all this kind of stuff that we talk about, rent to own, slot deals, options, wholesale deals, none of them you're putting a deed in your name. You're assigning them to somebody else, or you're not just, a rent to own, you don't put a deed in your name. It's just a rental contract. And if you break it, it's no different than when the tenant leaves your property. What are you going to do? You're going to go sue them? No, probably not, because, even if they do damage, you just take it on the chin and keep going. So that's the position you're in, which is what I mean when I say, if you've rented a property in the past, you know how to do 95% of this. You could make money with real estate. If you've rented a house or rented an apartment in the past, you know how to do 95% of this, right? So the second rule is don't put money in and you won't lose any.
Yep.
Right? The most popular system I like new clients to use is the rent to own method. Subject to deals or owner financing. That's where you get payments, get people to let you do payments.
Yep.
If you want to do that, I shouldn't give you too many places to go. But if you want to learn how to do that, I have two versions of it. I have an email course, which is the lighter version, and then I actually have a stronger version of it. That if you do a one-on-one interview with me, it's worth $100 because that's what I charged for it the first time. Actually, I charged $179 and then I dropped it down to $100. I have another version of it with a checklist, and it's a 14-day plan. So you can get it for free if you go to flippinghousesforrookies.com/email course, or if you do a one-on-one consultation with me, I'll give you the extended version with all the extra documents and stuff in it. I'll give that to you for free, and that's worth at least $100. So if you go to flippinghousesforrookies.com/free consultation, you can get it there. So just as a side note. Number 6, no interest seller loans. Creative financing. Most don't know that bank loans, when you go full term on them, get 2.5 times the borrowed amount because of interest.
Oh, yeah.
So if I were to take a $100,000 loan, that means I'm paying somewhere about $250,000 for that house. I'm not paying $100,000 for the house. I'm paying like $250 because when I make the payments, it's 2.5 times the amount of money that I borrowed. So if I borrowed $100, it's going to be $250 that I'm paying.
That's a lot of interest in there.
Which is why when I'm talking about my owner finance deals, if they're asking $100,000 for the property, I can easily pay them $125,000 and be way ahead than if somebody bought it with a bank loan. They're ecstatic because they got $125,000. They got 25% more than anybody else can give them. But because I'm paying no interest, principal only payments, every time I make a payment, it reduces the principal. So if I pay them $1,000 a month, the first month I owe them $124. Another month I owe them $123. I owe them $122, and it just keeps reducing. The interesting thing is I will sell this property on a rent to own, so the tenant is actually not getting the principal reduction. They're just paying to live in the property, and they're paying my loan down.
Yep.
So if I were to do this for 60 months, which is 5 years, that means I'll reduce that loan by $60,000 at $1,000 a month. So now I don't owe $125,000. I owe $125,000 minus 60, which is about $65,000.
Yep.
The tenant buyer still owes me $125,000. So when I close, I get from the tenant buyer $125,000, but I only owe $65,000.
Yep.
right? It is genius. I think it was Einstein said on his deathbed, what was the best invention? He said compounded interest. That's a common thing that I've heard. I've only heard that. I don't know that it's really true.
That's the best thing for the bank, but the best thing for us is the other
Right.
way. That's how I did my condo. I did it for 4 years, and I got $20,000 off the principal. And when I sold it, I walked away with a lot more money than I would have any other way. I mean, otherwise, if you got a bank loan, your first payment, you got maybe $25 of principal reduction. The rest is all interest. Then $26 off the principal, then $28. It's not a great deal. It's 30 years, so it's a lot.
So no interest loans get the property paid off in about a third of the time than a bank loan. Which means you can retire earlier if you do these types of transactions.
Yeah,
they're safer. Number 7. Does that make sense? Doing
well, the way I had mine structured, if I just stayed in the deal, the whole thing would have been paid off in 10 years, not 30.
Right.
Just like you said, 10 years would have been paid off, but I sold it a little earlier because it was the right time.
And what better way to retire than to have a handful of properties that are free and clear because you did it for 10 or 15 years. Even if you added one new property every year doing this.
Yeah.
Which I don't care. I mean, I get so nasty with my mouth. I'm very nasty with this. But come on, even a freaking 4th grader could do this. The only problem, if you're not doing this, the only problem you have is with the most important real estate on planet Earth. And that's between your ears. You actually think you have ideas and concepts that are not true. End of story. Because think of it this way. Where you are right now is only because of the education you have right now. Which cracks me up because when I have people get on a coaching call with me or they say they want to do coaching and they go all the way to the point where they actually talk to me and they ask all these questions and they're like, well, you know what? I'm going to go find a deal and pay for it with a deal. And I'm like, you don't have that education. How could you do that? You know what I mean? It's like going to the doctor and saying, "Oh, now that you diagnosed me, I know that I have a hernia. I'm going to go take care of it myself." How do you do that? You don't have the education to do that. Maybe you do, maybe you don't. I don't know, but most people don't. So where you are in life is only because of what you know now, or what you think you know now. And you need to change that if you want to expand, because if you could do it yourself, you would have done it already. So you need to do something about what you think now.
Some of the most successful people we have learned from, you mentioned Dave Lindahl before, right?
Yep.
We know his personal assistant. She was one of our coaches for a while, and she's in my phone and she's in his books. Nice lady. And she says he has like mountains of those name tags you get from conventions and conferences, right? You get those with your name. I went here and I was here 3 days.
Hanging around your neck. What's it called?
Lanyard with your
lanyard,
name tag. Yeah. So, and I have a bunch and I stick them someplace. Look, all the, and he said he has globs of those. So people aren't successful because they're just somehow magically geniuses. They study, they take classes, they learn from other people. They try to move the ball forward. Forward from what though? From zero? How about all the mountains of knowledge that you can get, like you've done, and I've done some of with you.
So let me divert for 1 second, just to give you an example. We were talking about this last night on the meetup. Okay, because every 3rd Wednesday of the month I do a free meetup.
Yeah.
So I don't have time to do this because we're almost out of time, but I'm going to give you a quick example. So I did a lease option on three multifamily houses, a 3-family house and 2 2-family houses. I did 2 master lease options.
Yeah.
Because, and this is what you're talking about, because of my education and because I was in a seminar once and somebody said something and I caught it, here's what happened. I added to my option agreement 1 sentence saying that my payments, when I make a payment on the lease, because I'm making the payment, I get principal reduction. On those 2 properties, I made almost $50,000 for that 1 or 2 sentences.
Yeah.
$50,000 for adding those 1 or 2 sentences. I would have never thought to do that if I wasn't in somebody else's training or heard somebody say something or network with people in that group. to pick up on these ideas. I would have never thought of it.
Yeah.
Here's another one. When I sell on a lease option, I sell 2 years. The first year, the price of the house is the price of the house. Let's say it's $100,000.
Mm-hmm.
It says the option agreement says on month 13, if you haven't cashed me out, the price of the house goes up 0.5%. So the second year, it adds 6% to the price of the house. So that means if they go the full 2 years, they don't owe $100,000, they owe $106,000.
Mm.
That one sentence I learned in a seminar or a book, and look how much money it's made me. I just did a closing in a house in Meriden, and it brought me 6% on a $180,000 house. And the mortgage company paid it. When she paid off the loan, she paid it because it was in the contract, because of that one sentence.
Yeah.
So you don't know what you don't know, and being connected or hooked to guys like us or other people like us is very valuable. Very valuable.
And you think you wouldn't have to say this, but one last thing, we'll move on. Actually, a friend of mine did a little bit of real estate. I don't know how he bought it, probably conventionally. And he's interested in what we do, and he came to one of our meetups. And he says to me one day, he really wants to learn it by himself on his own. He wanted to learn how to do real estate on his own, by himself, with his own experiences. I don't think I could even come up with an intelligent answer, because he was so far like, okay, that's ridiculous. But he wanted to make money.
Imagine if that's crazy. Imagine if you had to learn everything from your own experiences. How long would it take you? Lifetimes to learn some of this shit. Because I know the stuff I read. I go all the way back to the 30s and 40s and read books about real estate from then, because it's been that long since we've been doing all this kind of stuff, and longer.
Yeah.
But think of it this way. The reason why I read so much is to get other people's perspectives, ideas, and viewpoints of how they did something.
Mm-hmm.
And by reading that book for an hour or two gives me the experiences that if I had to do on my own would take me years.
Yeah, and that guy spent years doing it. He writes a book, and you can read it in a few hours, and you get a lifetime of experience from one person.
Exactly.
Came up with 3 good points, Why not?
So let's move on, because we're out of time. The last one, number 7, make friends, not money.
Okay.
This should be a whole podcast by itself, but when I do my deals, I find out what's needed and wanted by the seller first. That's the discovery stage.
Mm.
If you find out what's needed and wanted by the seller, now you can help them. Right? Like this. Yeah. You make friends. When you help them like this, you make friends, because they will never forget you. Like, for example, we go into a house and somebody says to me, and this is just a short example. The seller says to me, tell me about yourself. So I can go off on a 20-minute tangent telling them about my experiences.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Or I can say to them, oh, okay, what did you want to know about me?
Mm.
Well, how long have you been doing this? Oh, 20 plus years. Well, how many houses have you done? A few hundred. See, because I'm in their head. I'm finding out what they need and want. They need and want to know my experience, so instead of just guessing and ranting on for 20 minutes and telling them a bunch of stuff and wasting my time, because I'm only going to have about an hour with them, talking about things that aren't going to close or help them do anything, I'm just ranting. I just went right after, well, what do you want to know about me? Well, how long have you been doing this? 20 plus years. How many houses have you done? Oh, I don't know, a few hundred. End of story. It goes that quick.
That's smart.
Right?
Smart.
You understand what I'm saying? So this is how you make friends. By the way you build rapport with sellers is talk about their house. You don't talk about anything else. They don't care about your kids and your lions and your dogs and your cars and they don't care about you. I read a book. In fact, I was thinking the other day, I got to go find this book and read it again. I forget the name of the author. It's called Asking. It's a guy that wrote a book about church donations.
Really?
Yeah, it's called Asking, or The Asking. I actually met him in New York. I went to one of his conferences in New York and met him. He was old and he was a genius guy. In any event, he's talking about people giving donations, large donations to churches.
Mm-hmm.
And what I got out of it, amongst many other things, is they did a study. So they would interview someone and ask them for a donation. And then they would go back and they would ask them the next day, what did they get out of it? And then they would go back a week later, what did they get out of it? A month later, and then 6 months, and then a year later.
So that's what they remembered of the conversation?
Yep.
Okay.
What they found is the people that remembered the longest were the people that did most of the talking. So if you allow the seller or the person to talk a lot about themselves, they'll remember it for a year.
Mm-hmm.
If you're talking to them the next morning, they won't remember what you said. Interesting, right?
Yeah.
So when I say make friends, the way I do it is you ask the right questions to make them think. And you let them help you structure an offer. If you and the seller structure the offer together, you work on it together, what happens is you take them from being a prospect to a cheerleader. They start cheerleading you on to get it done because they helped you make the offer together.
Mm.
It's like you and the seller bake the cake together and then you eat it together. The celebration is we get to eat this cake. Right?
Well, I must have gotten close enough. I did one of those calls you said from the coaching group to the person you're working on the paperwork now. And she did a lot of talking, and she probably did too much talking, but you can't go wrong letting the other person talk.
Right.
And she told me what she wanted, and she kept telling me stuff, so I'll let her go. And she did talk about her dogs, but that's because the dogs chewed up the house. The tenant's dogs chewed it up. Right?
Which, by the way, that's right. By the way, what Peter's talking about is if somebody's talking too much, they don't feel like they're acknowledged. So give them a good, healthy acknowledgement. I got it, or I understand, or that makes sense to me. And just acknowledge them. Let them know that you received the communication, and they'll stop talking and you move on to the next thing.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Anyways, we need to get out of here.
My point was, just to finish it, was by the end of the conversation, she said, "Goodbye, my friend."
Yes.
And she said that when I called her back to have her talk to you. Well, thank you, my friend. And I was a little bit like, whoa, what? My friend? Well, I didn't do much. I just let her talk and let her tell me her stories, and I acknowledged her. So I'm just saying that because you make friends. Well, she said, thank you, my friend. So it's cute.
Exactly. And that's my point, is make friends. So if things are turning around and the market's getting bad and you did this, make friends, and I'm not talking about fake friends. I'm talking like you really cared about them and really helped them and were sincere on doing the deal structure with them in mind first.
Yeah.
Right. In other words, you got through your neediness and eliminated it to find out what their neediness is. Okay. So when things get bad a year or two down the road or 5 years down the road, the economy turns and the house is not worth whatever, blah, 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 which people worry about. You can now always go back to the seller and talk to them because you're their friend. And you could either renegotiate or like we say in the commercial business, retrade. You go back and retrade the deal, right? So it works for them and it works for you, and you can get through the hard times. You can renegotiate because you made friends. You didn't piss them off. You did everything you said we were going to do, which, by the way, earning trust is easy. Trust is simply your words match your actions. That's how people measure trust. Mm-hmm. So they look at what you say and then what you do, and if they match or are very close, trust is built quickly.
Yep.
And that's what we do. So we tell them we're going to call them at 2 o'clock on Thursday. We call them 2 o'clock on Thursday. If we're going to send a memorandum, we send the memorandum. If we say we're going to do this or do that, then that's what we do. And it doesn't take long for them to start trusting you. 2 or 3 phone calls and they start trusting you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? Because not many people know that or do that. All right?
Yeah.
So those are my seven ingredients on staying out of trouble in a market. I'm just going to rattle them through again, and then we're going to end. So number 1 is leverage or not being over leveraged. Number 2 is knowing emerging markets analysis. Number 3 is being set up to do virtual deals. Number 4 is automation and systemization, which is done on the internet a lot of times. 5 is not using money with creative deals. 6 is no interest seller loans, creator financing. And 7 is make friends, not money. Thank you for being with us today. I hope you enjoyed the podcast. If you go into your description, there's a link there that will take you to my new master class series. There's 3 videos in there that talk about how to do emerging markets, how to do virtual deals, and it shows you the software that we actually use, the cheap software we use, and it shows you how to use that, and some people that have used it and their experience with it. And at the end, if you so desire, you can if you can make an appointment with me to do a one-on-one interview so I can help you set things up or get things going. And if you do that, I will give you $100. If you set up an appointment with me and so desire, I will give you $100 course that has a checklist on how you can do all this in 14 days. Okay, so that link is in the chat, and you could go click on that and get started today. All right. So over and out. Thank you so much for being with us. Thank you for your support and your patronage on Bill's Planet. And Pete, as always, thank you for being here and helping. Okay?
Thank you, Bill.
We'll talk next week.